Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. I am super excited today. My guest today is Lisa Collins, and she is an amazing, amazing educator. And she has some interesting topics that I invited her here today to talk about because I know that a lot of things that she is passionate about are things that we need to address in our society. So, Lisa, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm such an honor to be here with you and to have this conversation. I'm an assistant professor, an educator, an author, a spiritual writer, a medium, um, a film, uh, a film producer, and playwright. And I use my work for the best good and healing in community. That is really where I think we should be going. I think we have one job is to care for one another, and we can't seem to do that very so that's where my work is.
And what got you started on this path? I mean, I know you didn't come out the womb, looking at this stuff. So
No, I
share with us.
didn't.
I was going to say, share with
I
us
earned
a
my
little bit.
way. I earned my way. Well, the racial healing work that I have done and that I am currently doing is based on my experience in 3 school districts in Oregon. I studied myself. I didn't plan on studying myself. I planned on studying policy about race and a really policy about trauma. And I heard this voice say, "You're the subject."
Mm, mm, mm. Don't
And
you
I
love
said,
those
"What?
voices?
What? Me?"
Yeah.
But I was obedient and I studied myself. And I found from working in 3 school districts here in Oregon, I found that I experienced racial trauma 4 times more than healing. And through the examination of that and the work that I have done as a trauma practitioner, I wrote a model for racial healing.
Mm.
And I wanted to say, like, and when I was done with it, I couldn't believe it. And I knew it was a power greater than myself that wrote that model.
Yes. So did you publish or you?
I did. The dissertation was published, and recently there's an article published about healing racial trauma in school systems that has the model in it and has my story in it.
Oh, that's powerful. Because what I was going to ask was how could we get that if we wanted to read it? Is there a way?
Yeah, there is a link. It's published with I was just looking at it today. There's people all over the world who have downloaded it. So I've seen it downloaded in Africa, downloaded in the UK, downloaded in all these places. I'm like,
That's
that
powerful.
that work, it is powerful. It was definitely a God-centered, spirit-centered thing that happened. Because when I
Mm-hmm.
looked at it, I was just shocked that it works on all people. I would say to my European American colleagues, you need healing too. So we
Yep.
all need healing. So
Yes, we
it's
do.
something we're going to need to do together, not separate. But I will definitely drop the link to the article.
Yeah, because I'm sure people are going to want to, because just hearing about it made me think, oh, I would love to check that out
That's
because it's so
amazing.
necessary.
It is. There's a TEDx talk too that goes with it that I did in a online in Brazil, and um, it just floors me because I know it's not me, and I'm humbled to be used in this way. And when I first was experiencing all the racialized trauma I was going through, being assistant principal, not having keys to the building,
What?
being excluded, and I'm not alone. I know that there's other people out there experiencing the same thing, but I am the spearhead that's going to talk about these things, and I'm publish them and talk about them out loud so that people can stop suffering.
Yeah, because, people, uh, okay, let me see how I want to say this. So a lot of people that look like us, I mean, that don't look like us, don't really understand the magnitude of our experiences. And so many times I hear or I see, because you look on different platforms, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, but I see stuff and they're like, oh, well, you know what? They need to just get over it. Yeah.
You know, what I found in my research, I found out so much about myself in my own research. I found out I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I came from, and I didn't know whose I was. I
Mm.
found that. And so by researching myself, I found out like, you come from the African diaspora. What does that mean? That means that your people were kidnapped, brought over here, worked for free labor to build this country. And the remnants of that permeates all that you have experienced, everything. And I said, and then if I go work in a school system that was absolutely, during Brown versus the Board of Education, all Black educators were taken out of schools. All the people who care for me, hug me, love me, tell me I'm beautiful are taken out of the schools. There's no wonder there's not any Black educators in the schools today. They say have less than 10%. Why? Because you put a gatekeep to keep us out. But my story is here to say we need each other. And not only did my people make it through the African diaspora, I'm still here. And my ancestors are here. So I am here for the good.
Yes. I love that because I think about that as well, and I love that quote by Maya Angelou. I'm the dreams
Yes.
of a slave. And I
Mm-hmm.
think about that and I'm like, and for me, it's not lost on me. And I guess
Oh no.
the older I get, the more I recognize and realize, because like now on my mom's side of the family, my mom is the elder. Like she's the oldest out of everybody on her side of the family on my grandmother's leg. Like all of her older brothers and sisters are gone. And she's the elder. And I was kind of talking to her about that because she wasn't really liking that. Because what that means is everybody comes to her and everybody calls her for everything,
Right,
like especially
right.
the ones whose parents are gone. Like some
Right.
of my cousins whose their mama died last year, year before, whatever. And, same thing. And so everybody, and my mom, she actually was always the one that had a lot of sense. So everybody goes to her, like not
Right.
only me and my sister and my brothers, but my cousins, because there's my grandmother had 10 kids, so I have like 31st cousins, and many more seconds because we had more kids than our parents, a lot of us, not me, but some of my cousins did. My
Yeah.
brother has like 6 or 7 kids, you
Wow, for
know.
that next generation. I heard that in your podcast that your mom's had 9 brothers and sisters. Is that right?
Yes.
My
Hmm.
mom had 9 brothers and sisters.
So, and it's like, girl, my husband is number two of 11.
My
Who
mom
do
had
you?
2.
My mom had 4. I had 2, but I raised 3. So, but and many more. God, I started raising kids when I was little. It's a whole another show. But to say that I recognize that about us and about the ancestors and how important that is, knowing who you are and your lineage and where you come from, and we did our ancestry, but I really want to do the one with the ladies that did the African tribes and stuff like that, the tribes,
Mm.
because there's so much and you really don't know. Like my husband's people, they told him that his grandfather was from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Okay, so we didn't see none of that in the ancestry.
It didn't show up?
Nah, but I think in Nigeria or something, and a couple other places, Benin and Togo, and we know that those places are closed. So I don't know. Like I said, of course we don't know. We just know from what we heard. But it's quite interesting when you start looking at that stuff. And then especially I love the fact of how you used yourself as a case study. That's powerful. I mean, study you, because most of us don't know us, and us in this country is so much to unpack for us.
Woo. It was a
And
lot.
I really truly
Yeah.
believe that it's simpler for our brothers and sisters in Africa. It's simpler for them, you know. But us, it's like, you know, primordial mud. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're the
Yeah,
composite of a lot
absolutely.
of peoples. Most of us
That's
are the
right.
composite of all the peoples that are here.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
like,
right.
okay, so, ooh, because I know that there are different influences that, and what I'm learning is too, is that when something that you're attracted to, look at that and look at the influences and look and study it and see, what you feel about it and this kind of thing. Because like for me, like I'm a natural shaman and I had no idea. I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been a healer since I was 3 years old because I used to lay hands on people when I was a little girl.
Mm.
My grandmother was a pastor, and so she would go to little churches and do healing services and stuff. And she would call me up to lay hands on the people, and I would.
Oh,
So I knew
wow.
that I was a healer from way back. I denied it for years. And then I started, studying like everybody else. You start looking and seeing different things that you like, what you're called to. And I didn't realize until just probably about, I don't know, a week or two ago. I was like, God, I am a natural shaman, and I really am, because there are things that I do, like in my sessions that I had no training, not in this life, in this world, in this
Mm-hmm.
space. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So it's like, I know this and I felt it and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, all right, all right, all right. So when you started seeing all of this stuff and you decided that it was your job to expose it and to talk about it and to share,
Someone
what did
decided
what
for me.
I was going to say, what did that look like for you?
Well, the first thing that happened for me is that once I heard the voice say you're the subject, I started taking I like literally researching and taking my experiences and creating and taking them and quantifying them. So it was qualitative research. And what I found is that I wanted to heal from the racial trauma that I experienced. Like I had a boss who, in the beginning of my work, I have a narrative, like a conversation between me and the principal about Shirley Temple and Bojangles. I want to center the work where it starts, and that actually had the principal call me up to tell me about the great lesson about Shirley Temples and Bojangles. So I center the work with some of the narratives throughout, but by me writing those narratives was healing for me. And then I started going to a life coach, and what I told her, and everything I've learned, I have been humbled to learn, because I'm pretty hard headed and I think my way is the right way.
Of
So
course.
when I called up this person I heard was this great life coach, I'm thinking that she can't be that great. And I'm going to interview her. But what she asked me was, how come you stayed there so long? And I didn't have an answer for her. And I began to be life coached, conscious freedom life coach. I became a life coach. I worked with a Black practitioner with interpersonal neurobiology for a year. And I got to see parts of me that were encapsulated from the trauma that were in my field.
Yes.
And then I worked on removing them. And the more I studied, more things started coming my way. The map of abundance came my way. And then mediumship came my way. My spiritual teacher came my way. And I just humbly said yes as they came my way.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. I love it. I love it. So let's go here. So were you raised Catholic or Christian or any of those? Any of them other folks
Southern Baptist and Protestant.
in California?
I was raised Southern Baptist. My parents are from Arkansas.
Oh, okay, yes.
My dad's in the military and in the Marine Corps. And then on the base, we went to the Protestant service.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's always interesting, because when I hear people say that they got found their team and the mediumship came in and all that, um, did that like just drop in for you, or how did that show up for you?
Well, I was minding my own business And actually a friend of mine took her life.
Oh, wow.
And I just the year before, I was at her house having a celebration, and she lived in California, and we had moved here, and she had always been that buddy of mine. And when she took her life the week before, I felt like something was going to happen. It's almost like it was like it wasn't like a very clear vision, but it was like a sense that somebody
Yes.
was going to be found.
Yes.
And I thought it was going to be my son because he was really struggling, my oldest son. And I had a business trip and I was going to fly to the East Coast, and I wanted to take him like he was 5. And my wife said, "You've gone away to trips before and you've left him. He's my son is from my first marriage." And she said, "Go to your trip like you always do." And I, you know, begrudgingly went to my trip. When I came back, she had taken her life. And I woke up, I came back from the trip, heard she had taken her life. And I woke up in the middle of the night and saw somebody standing at the foot of the bed. And I said, I thought it was my spouse. And then, pew, soon as gone.
Yeah.
I said, boy, she's in a hurry. I wonder where she's going. She missed the bathroom. But then I reached over and she was in bed, and so was my son, our youngest son. And I said, who was that? And I thought it was my friend, Claire. I said, I think it was Claire. So, like I said, my son was struggling. I was so worried about him. And I had done some work with Cindy Dale, who is an intuitive. I don't know if you know
Yes,
Cindy.
girl, I got Cindy Dale book right here that I'm studying little bit by little bit.
She is so fabulous.
I
And
can
I had,
imagine. I've not ever seen her in person, but I found her and found the books on the chakras and stuff, and she
well,
goes so deep,
she's
and
a
I'm
she is
studying.
such a sweetie. I had
Awesome.
dinner with her and met her in person for the first time last month. But I was calling her about, like, no, so there is no accidents. I was calling her to see if she would see my son. And I had had sessions with her. So miraculously, Cindy, who's booked out a year and 6 months in a year, was available the next week to talk to my son. And I asked her, once I got her on the phone, what happens when you feel like something so strongly? You just know something. And she said, and I told her about Claire, and she said, when the soul's ready to go, the soul's ready to go. There's nothing you could have done.
No.
She said, but if you have a question, and Cindy was doing the she was front loading what would end up happening in my spiritual life. And she said, sit down on your bed, say a prayer and ground and write your question. And the answers would come. And I thought, that's ridiculous. It's like everything else. That's how am I going to do that?
You said, how could it be that easy?
So I sat down and I wrote, Claire, was that you? And Claire came in writing. And that was the beginning. That was beginning. And I had, one of my good friends. Well, what are you? A psychic or something? Shouldn't you go get some training? Spirit has a funny way of working. And then I started seeking out a teacher. And then I got my teacher, Reverend Dr. Adara Walton.
I was gonna say, you already know when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and not before.
I got to tell you, whether I was ready or not, it was coming. So, and actually, it was 3 years ago on the solstice that I had my first. Was it 4 years ago on the solstice where I had my first reading, where really I was taking direction. I got 3 books to read, a movie, and direction, and that's when I started automatic writing, getting messages from spirit.
Yep.
Which at this turn is, my first book is a spiritual book.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because that was actually what I was gonna say. I was like, girl, you channeled that book.
Oh yeah. I didn't know what was happening. I'd get up in the middle of the night and just write. And actually, I've started the second one to go with that one to help people be able to understand that book. I'm writing a primer to it so that people can get on board, because, like you were saying earlier, people just don't know.
No, it's like they I think that parts of them know because people are waking up now. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that the larger part of people is like, because what I find is that people will fight for their limiting beliefs. They will fight you for that.
Yes.
You're like,
Yes.
well, my grandma said, and blah, 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 blah. And, everybody in my family, and I always use this example because I think it's just funny. So my grandmother, and her family, they cut the bacon in half. So my mama cuts the bacon in half. I cut the bacon in half. My children cut the bacon in half. Why do we fucking do that? Because this is what we were taught and this is what we learned. Now, we still didn't know why we were doing that. And so one day, being the inquisitive child that I was, I asked my grandmother, I said, why we cut the bacon in half? And she said, well, when I was young, we didn't have big pans like they have now. So we cut the bacon in half, for that reason. Plus, they lived on a farm and it was a lot of them. I think my grandma came from something like 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a lot of people to feed. You cut the bacon, and these were the things that she told me. But why we cut the bacon in hell? Hell no, I don't know. I have a pan big enough for a whole split, thing of bacon. You know what I mean? But I just do
Right.
it because that's what I was taught, and that's, how I learned. It's like, why do you do what you do? And it's the same way I notice in everything. There are reasons why we do things that we do. Sometimes we don't know them, and that is a part of the journey is learning what that is and looking at the patterns, and seeing, okay, yeah, okay, this is going like this, and that's going like that, but, do I have to do it that way? No. Do I have to cut that bacon in half? No, I don't. Do I still do? Yes, I do. Like the first thing when I get the bacon, I open the pack and I cut it in half. Oh, so yeah. So anyway, what was I going to ask
Would
you?
you just describe my internet's a little unstable. What you just described is racism. You just
Yes,
described it to a T. And that
right.
we don't, it's in our bodies, and we don't even, we're not conscious of what it is. So when I'm walking around Portland and people are looking at you, like they're either scowling with their eyes and smiling with their mouth, or scowling with their mouth and smiling with their eyes, or both, you're like, those negative neurotoxins, they can't even see their face. And I learned that in interpersonal neurobiology. So when I go from here to, like, let's say Texas,
Ooh,
and I'm in Texas in the elevator, and the older European American man talks to me, I'm always like, because people don't talk to you here. They don't even look at you because you don't exist. That is the thing that I could feel, and people feel it, like, it's kind of weird. What's happening?
yeah.
That's the thing I'm putting a name on. And that's why I had to know who I was and know how this country was formed, that these oppressive practices are in all of the structures. I'm swimming in it all the time.
Every
So I
single
can't
thing,
expect
everything.
everything. So when I go to work, I can't expect that you and I have the same goals. I'm here for kids and families. That's because I'm from an Afrocentric indigenous way of being. It's about us. You're not. So when 3 o'clock come, you leave. Me, if that kid needs a ride home, or they're hungry, or their family needs something, I'm there. That's a
Yes,
total different mindset. It
yes,
changed how I deal with organizations completely. It set me
yes.
free.
And that's the part because I actually had a thing I did with a friend of mine. We did a women's circle, and it was really nice. But it was like three women and the two of us, and um after it was over, it went very well. It was our first time doing it together because she does it with somebody else and the girl couldn't make it, and so she asked me if I would come. I said sure, because that's my shit anyway. That's my jam. I love doing it. So, but I find myself that sometimes I'm paying attention to different things than what she is because she doesn't look like us. And for me, when I walk in a room, I'm already looking around and paying attention because this is how we were conditioned.
Yeah.
Watch your surroundings and pay attention in this, that, and the third. And being from the South, I know what that shit looks like. It's not, no, I know exactly what it looks like. And to me, it's not like the first, my first impression. It's not the first thing I think about, oh, are these people, being racist? That's not my first impression. Matter of fact, I try really hard to make it my last. However, we know what that looks like because I don't know, you probably didn't experience that if you were on this side of the earth, but I remember we had integration. I was the second class to integrate this elementary school.
Oh, wow.
I remember that. There were 6 of us in a class and no teachers that looked like us. There was a couple of black ones, but girl, they was so fair till they could pass. If you looked hard, if you didn't look hard, you didn't
Yeah.
know that they was us. Know what I mean?
They got rid of the
And I remember
teachers.
that completely.
They got rid of the teachers.
Yes. It
82,000 teachers lost their jobs after
then
Brown
what's
versus the
the
board.
problem with that? There is too much of that going on anyway, still. They said
Well,
they got rid of some teachers here where we live. I'm like, what? They don't even
we
get
have a
rid of
teacher
teachers.
shortage.
I don't get that anyway, but that's a whole nother
That's another show.
that's another conversation. Say. But I realized that though, and actually somebody else and I were talking and we were like, it's like a code switching. Like we know we're born knowing how to code switch, not born, but we're taught young, knowing
We
how to
have to
code
fit
switch.
into what's there. I
Yes,
have to I have to check my authentic self at the
yes,
door. And
yes,
I said, "Do you have to change who you are when you come to work?" I have to check who I am to go out and be in these organizations. So my mentor and good friend Muhammad Khalif always says, it's like my ancestral knowledge is not valued.
exactly,
But
exactly.
that
And
helped me.
the thing is, it's devalued, really.
Oh yeah, well,
I mean,
it doesn't count. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
right.
No.
It's like, and you're like, okay, I hope y'all realize that, everything originated from Africa, from Mother Africa, all of y'all. And I tell them from a medical standpoint, I have taken care of all kinds of people. And as far as I know, they all bleed red blood.
No, all the same, right?
I said, and just like I tell them, I said, if you needed some blood, are you going to ask what color that person is to get that blood? Hell no, you're going to get the damn blood that you need.
Right.
And it to me, it's just, it boils down to that. It's like,
Yeah.
we're all the same underneath. Where did this come from? And the other thing, I interviewed a young lady that she wrote a book about, I wish I could remember. It was something that happened in the 14th or 15th century. It was in France and it was about a black lady. And she didn't look like us, but she wrote this book and she said she thought that she would get criticized. She said, but it was so interesting. And she went and did the research and she found out that racism to the extent of what it is now did not exist back then.
No,
She was like,
it did not.
it's like it took a turn and she actually went into it. I did not read the book yet
Yeah.
because because I'm reading 20
Well,
books
I'll tell
right now.
you, Raoul Peck's "Exterminate All the Brutes." He has a very specific place where he says this is where race and blood and land were all melded and changed ties. It's a beautiful documentary.
And what's the name?
"Exterminate All the Brutes" by Raoul Peck. He's
Wow.
Brazilian.
Okay.
Beautiful. And I use it in my teaching all the time to help students understand.
Definitely, definitely. So what do you teach?
I teach ed leadership, people who want to be principals, and
Mm-hmm.
I teach doc students, people who are getting their educational doctorate.
Gotcha. Oh, that's awesome. That's how I was wondering, did you teach like the class on racism?
And well, I teach with a under the umbrella of racial consciousness. And what I define racial consciousness is knowing who I am, where I came from, knowing my ancestral knowledge, and being able to use it to emotionally process our organizations and systems. That is something I gained from my research. And the other thing I gained is what I call racial regulation.
Yeah.
That stuff is y'all are doing whatever, but I'm not spinning around with you. I'm actually observing that and taking care of myself in systems.
That is powerful because we need that. We need that.
We have to have it.
It's wild.
No one's giving it to us.
Nobody is. So I interviewed another young lady, and she actually does this type of work too. But she doesn't look like us. And so we actually had a deep conversation. It's amazing. Safriana Luna. Matter of fact, I'm going to interview her again because she wrote a book or something. But she talked about how the difference between, if both of us went for that job and we both have the same education, we both have the same background basically or whatever, but how they would hire her before they hired me. And I have the lived experience. And I said, that is absolutely the truth. I said, it's scandalous is what it is. I said, because even now, like they do a lot of cultural stuff, education and stuff at jobs and whatnot. And you have the diversion and inclusivity thing module to do. And they're like, well, what do you think about it? I was like, what do you mean? And I tell them straight up, I was like, it's bullshit. I said, because who wrote it? I'm sure nobody like me wrote it because they would say things differently.
I just recently wrote an article on Medium about why diversity work doesn't work, DEI work doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work because it's coming from the wrong place. See, it's not head work, it's heart work. And until you are ready to.
So, let's talk a little bit about where you see this work coming, where you see it going from here. Like, do you see more books, or do you plan more speaking engagements, or are there courses coming, or what do you see for this?
Yes, I really had to think and pause about how this work should roll out, because the last thing I would want is for people to take this work and harm people with it. So that's why I didn't. My dissertation is embargoed. If you want it, you have to get it from me. And that's why, also I've written an assessment for trauma that includes race. And I'm not using it until I find the right place to use it. So there are courses coming. I'm working on a book about trauma, because to heal racial trauma, you have to heal your past traumas, like throwing in back of the station wagon first before you get to race. And I'm working with a couple organizations right now for educators of color to help them to have the tools they need to work in our systems, because you can put them in our systems, but the organization just pushes them out again.
Yes. So, and we need that. So we need it.
Yeah. So those are some of the things I'm working on. Really the coursework is coming, the book is coming, and then I'm looking on how do we help create community for each other. Like, I would like that community to be in every city where I can go and I'll be welcome. No one's going to invisibilize my experience or tell me that didn't happen. They're going to be there for me. They're going to have that attunement and that
tell
care
you that
and
you're
that
too
love.
much.
Right. You just doing too much. Tom's a nice person.
You just too much.
Yeah.
It ain't that serious. Yeah.
So that's where my heart is.
That's worthwhile. Because we need that so desperately. And I think it's one of those things that we need that we don't even realize we need it.
I didn't know who I was. I really didn't. And when I was able to have that racial consciousness. That is something that I'm also teaching, is racial consciousness. And literally just came back from presenting a paper with my two European American colleagues, where they wanted me to work in a grant, and I said no. And they kept asking, and I said, you know why I'm saying no? I said no. I said, because I don't want to do the emotional labor of this work that is so important. Are you willing to do emotional labor? Are you willing to do work on yourself? And they said yes. So the paper that it's actually on LinkedIn, the paper, I posted it, that I wrote about the work, the racialized coaching that my colleagues did, um, to help raise their consciousness so that we could work together in an honest relationship.
Well, that's necessary too, because the thing is what I've learned is being when I growing up being um in the honors classes and stuff, you can imagine that there were not a whole lot of us there. So I
Yeah.
learned early how to deal with all kinds of people. I learned that. And so I realized that sometimes they have no clue either. They just don't know.
They don't
And
know.
sometimes the stupid shit that they say out of their mouth is because they don't
They have
know.
no idea. They really don't know.
Yeah,
And
it's like,
saying I'm the social justice warrior, that's not enough. Sorry.
no, it's not. It's like, okay, now what?
Yeah. Yeah. They did the work. I'm gonna send you the paper. They did the work. And is everything perfect? No. But I have I can say what's on my mind.
Well, the thing too is the important thing is that the conversation is started,
Yeah.
because that's the thing. It's like, okay, yeah, Dr. King did all this stuff, and Malcolm X did his thing, and all these people, but they're dead now, and the work still needs to go on because it's not done. It's not anything like the dream yet.
No. And Dr. King
However,
says yes to that.
absolutely. However, what about this part? Okay, so now you see a lot of the youngsters, especially older people too, but especially a lot of the youngsters, they're they're mixing. And so, we have our Obama kids coming through. How do you think that that is affecting all of this? How do you see that, because I know that's a
Well, my youngest is biracial, and I started with him when he was very young, teaching him about oppression, and having him, like, just from from TV, having him. So I stopped the TV and said, "What's happening right now?" Because I needed him to see, not to just have this color blindness because you're biracial, but to see the oppression that is happening to people who look like him, and whether they know or not. So we did not have him watch commercials. We did not have him watch, and it was actually the show Boss Baby. He was little. I stopped it, and they had the black baby
that's the
was
one with
barking.
the Trump thing, right?
I, I'm not sure, because we don't watch it anymore.
Oh,
But at that time, the black baby was barking like a dog and chasing the white baby. And I said, "What do you see?" And he told me, he was little. And I said, "Now, how does that make you feel about the black baby?" And so I believe parents have an obligation to teach the children about this oppression that we see in everything. Everything, every commercial, who is doing what, who is standing on top of who is the person in the back, who is the person that's getting beat up. And so those are the things. And for my older kids, are the same. I did the same thing for them, because I want them to see oppression. I don't want them to think like, to go out and think it's some kind of Pollyanna world, everybody loves each other. No, you see that when the bus passes you up, you're waiting for the bus. You see that when you walk in the store and they're following you. You see that when they walk up to you and they go to the other person, when you're standing right there.
I think that is one of the things that uh those kids said they had to get the hell out of Texas for, because they were like, it's time to go. I said,
I'm glad they left. I'm glad they didn't ignore
girl.
it. They didn't ignore it and say, well, it just
Well, my
happens.
oldest
No.
stayed. She didn't go. That was my youngest. She didn't want to leave Texas at this time. We're still praying for her.
Well, I'll add her to my
So we were
list.
like, yeah. But I think that's so important, because a lot of these kids, you're right, they come up and they're being raised like, everything is love. They say stuff like, oh, racism doesn't exist. Really? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Really? And you have to,
Our nation was born on it. It is definitely, it permeates everything. So, so what I teach those people who want to be principals, I said, I just need you to be able to see oppression when you leave here. Now, I may be the only uh, professor that they have that teaches them that, but I need them to see it because the families and kids need them to be able to see it and to work around it. I said, I don't need you to be Braveheart. We
yeah,
don't need that. What I
yeah,
need you to do is when they're looking over there, you look and see what is in the system that you can unearth and move.
yes,
That's what we need. We don't
yes.
need you running on down the street with a sign. I'm not, that protest has its place, but we are suffering today.
I completely and totally agree. Um I laughed because I saw a TikTok and this girl said it was something happened and she said, oh, they were talking about the Alabama thing. She said, we are not our ancestors. We are not putting up with that stuff. We done turned our cheek way too many times. Them things is burning because we done turned them so many times. And so we're done now. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
We have to do
laugh
something
about it.
different. We got
We
to do something
do.
different. Yeah.
I laugh because we had a case. I'm from Savannah, Georgia, so we had a case in Savannah. This was years back, and the KKK applied to come and march down Martin Luther King Boulevard. So the mayor at the time was like, no, because these people, and he had used the word, the N word, and he was like, they'll tear up this town. This is a tourist town. This is how we make our money. You are not going to be walking in your sheets down on Martin Luther King Boulevard. That's just not happening. So I thought that thing was it. It was actually, we laughed about it and stuff like that because the mayor was like, no, 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 that is not something you're going to do. Because he was like, these ones here, they will burn this town down. And he was like, we're not going through all that. So they didn't allow them to come in March. But now they did go on the outskirts in March
Hmm.
because that was
Hmm.
actually the very first time that I saw them in person.
Oh, wow.
Only seen them on
And
TV, books.
I don't think I've ever seen them in person, but when I was growing up in Oceanside, when I was growing up, the Grand Dragon for the Ku Klux Klan lived in the same town and in Fallbrook, right outside of the base. And I went to school with his kids.
Wow. Oh. Hmm.
He lived in the Hispanic part of town. I thought that's kind of funny.
I was gonna say, and how did that go?
It went.
All right, so we're gonna land this plane because we've been talking, and this has been such an amazing conversation. I could talk to you probably another hour, but we ain't gonna do that today. Today, I want you to just share with the people if you have anything coming up, if you have any workshops or anything that you're doing, any classes or whatever. Just share that with the people and also share, where they can connect with you, the best place for them to connect with you. Because I know that people are going to see this and they're going to want to connect with you. So,
Well, by all means, you can find me on my website, lisaycollins.com. You will see what I'm up to. It's connected to my Instagram as well. You will find me, Lisa Yvetta Collins on Instagram, and Lisa Yvetta Collins on Twitter, and Lisa Yvetta Collins on LinkedIn. So what I have coming up this week is the Energy Summit with the Shift Network is coming up. My session will be actually on Friday. Yeah, on Friday. It may be past, but that Energy Summit is so good. And I'm listening to it every day myself. I'm so honored to be interviewed by Cindy Dale on the summit, and it's like full circle. And I'm talking about negative belief systems and how they get in the way of your success. So
I
the
love
Energy
that.
Summit is coming up, and you can find it on the Shift Network. I have a book coming out, but follow me on my social media, and I have all the stuff that I'm doing. I'm a natural conservancy is one of the things I do. I've been to Alaska a few times. I work with my brother that I love, Chad Brown, who works with getting BIPOC people out into nature. And I'm fortunate to have been in the Arctic twice. I'll be going again this year. And,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, yeah, you'll see that on my page. So check it out. And if you're interested in doing any of those things, reach out, because, we need more people out in nature and enjoying what is for us. That is for us. So
So good. I'm so excited about that. And I will drop all of the links down in the show notes. So if you guys, don't, no worries. Um, did you send me the link for the shift?
I will send it to you.
Can you? Yes. Okay. Then I can drop that in the show notes. That way we can all get a chance to check that out, because I love the Shift Network. And I I've done a few of their courses. I really, yeah, I'm a course geek. I just love courses. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to this too. I'm looking forward to that. I'm like, oh my God, somebody I know is geeking out. Oh, on the shift. Oh my God. So that's going to be fun. So if you guys want to connect with her, because she is a powerhouse, I would encourage you. And if you are, somebody that does interviews, then you might want to, have her on your show. She's an amazing guest. And I just absolutely have loved this conversation,
It's
because
been wonderful.
just being able to talk freely about this subject is such a wonderful thing. Because people don't want to talk about it, but you
Right.
can't hear what you don't acknowledge.
Right.
you know
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
It's been a great honor. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yes, it's been amazing, and I am so appreciative that you've come, and I'm so thankful for this conversation. And I know that you dropped so many gems and so many goodies, and there was some more stuff that we could talk about, but we'll do that another time. So we're gonna land this plane. I am so excited that you guys have listened to this and you've heard all of what Lisa has been sharing. It's been an amazing time. I absolutely love it. And I can't wait to listen to more and to read more and actually continue to follow her and connect with her, so that you can, be notified when she drops her next book, because it's coming soon. So again, thank y'all for hanging out with us. It's been a blast. Wherever you are watching it, my heart goes out to you. Make sure you check out all the links in the show notes, and it's going to be on YouTube, as well as Spotify and Apple and Google and iHeartRadio and Amazon Music, and everywhere that you listen to your podcast. Pretty much you can get this one. So I would love it if you would check it out, and then drop me a comment and let us know, what hit for you. What was an aha moment for you? If you are, in whatever situation you're in, we know that we all have dealt with racism in some way, shape, or form, whether we were on the end of it or we were on the beginning of it. We've all dealt with it. So we would love to hear your comments and things that you have to say. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with us on Straight Outta Savannah. Bye now.